All right, so we are taking a
Mhm.
look at A Clash of Horns, and I'm joined by Limbo and Limboette. Thank you both so much for joining me on the call today. This is a super cool game. It's got a bit of Darkest Dungeon DNA. Am I understanding that correctly?
I guess, yeah, from the 4 characters in the line.
Yeah, I guess from that standpoint, but our main inspiration was a different game.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I mean, why don't you? Which game was that?
It's called Scrolls. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Hmm. Like,
It has exactly elements of the card game with elements of positioning, and that was the main inspiration here.
Yeah, not many people actually heard about it because it didn't really
It
have a
didn't,
good launch.
yeah, it didn't
So
really have a good launch.
they-
It was multiplayer, so it basically died off and nobody played it.
oh, do you mean Mojang Scrolls?
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
Wow, yeah, I had heard that like I don't know. I guess it was kind of overshadowed by Minecraft, like so maybe not many people realized. But yeah, that's super neat. I never had played Scrolls before, so that's really cool.
Honestly, neither did we. However, we saw some. Well, neither did I.
Oh, I played it
yeah,
during the beta period.
yeah, exactly. He
For
played it
months
during
or
the
two,
beta period, but never after release. I never played it, but looked at some playthroughs.
There are a lot of inspirations here, really.
Yeah,
Because Magic the Gathering, for example.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering is inspiration for a lot of those keywords that we're using here. Yeah.
Some people state that it's inspired by what? By Slay the Spire. I guess
Yeah.
it's similar in a way.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the and anything that is a sort of like roguelite card-based battle system. I mean, the funny thing is, I am also working on a card battle type game. It's just not based on like summoning characters. It's just about playing cards out of your hand. So I'm definitely a fan of the genre, and I really like what I've seen of the game so far. So yeah, was this just
Glad to
about?
hear it.
Pardon? Oh, glad to hear it. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So was this just about like doing your take on like what you saw as interesting about the Scrolls game and like iterating on it a bit?
We actually came up with an idea of a summoner card battle game based on. There was this card game, a physical card game about Battle of the Mages. Two mages battling, you were creating your deck. I played it like ages ago, literally maybe 12 years ago. And there is also Summoner Wars. So the main inspiration here, why we did that card game, is existence of rather physical card games, and Scrolls served as, I guess, sort of a linchpin for the mechanics.
Borrowed some mechanics.
Borrowed
from
some
Scrolls,
mechanics from it. Yeah.
which I felt like very fitting in this
Yeah.
particular game would be.
But the main idea was that we thought this kind of battle of summoners will fit the theme very nicely.
Oh yeah, another inspiration was Rolly and the Desert Drag.
Yes.
Previous.
We sort of expanded on our Rolly idea, that is true.
You might remember it, you played it last jam.
Yes,
Rolly.
I do. Yeah,
Rolly
it
and the
was
Desert Drag.
the game that was based on like taking the different puzzle pieces and sort of building out your attack sort of battle deck.
Yeah.
Yes. That was our first attempt at
the card game.
deck builder game. Yes, this is our second.
Yeah.
But this time with cards.
Yeah. Well, Rolly was secretly a card game as well.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Mechanically.
I just realized that I can use the like buff card as basically a heal. Like I can use that to heal myself.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit each? I know I usually start with this question, but I see the credits listed here that the programming and magic. You're gonna have to expand on exactly what that means. That was done by Limbo Not, and then the art, animation, SFX were done by Limboet. So, what exactly do
Well,
you mean by?
magic is animations and stuff. I like doing
Yeah.
twins and stuff like that, and also doing some particle effects occasionally.
Also,
So yeah, magic.
I wrote those credits, and often when I look at what he's doing, it seems like a magic to me.
Ah. So yeah, I do all the code on our games.
Especially that with this game we had less time really because we only finalized our idea 25 hours into the jam. So it was insane. It was so much done in such a
Couldn't
short
come up with
time.
a good idea for a while.
Yeah, we
So
couldn't come up with a
we
good
only
idea.
implementation on the second day.
Yeah.
But we
Wow.
built a paper prototype.
Yeah, we actually made a paper prototype and played with paper cards.
Oh wow. I mean, that's I'm amazed you had time to make a paper prototype in the scope of the jam. Like,
But we thought we had time.
Yeah.
That's why we wasted the whole first day on this.
And then things got really insane the
Yeah.
next 2 days.
Making a card game in 2 days is hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have experience making such UI stuff.
yeah. So
But
this
I
is
think it
made.
came out.
Yeah, this is made with Godot, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Go
make
go.
everything with Godot.
So were you able to like reuse any of the UI based code that you had for Rolly?
We reused the code for generating floating text only, that's all. Yeah, so the text that floats above the heads of the units is the one that they reused from the Rolly. But Rolly didn't have cards, so all the code that handles cards, grabbing those cards, dragging them around, and so on, I had to write it from zero.
Wow, yeah. That's crazy because like again, I mentioned it before, but I am also working on a dice. Well, it's like an elaboration of my game from not Ludum from GMTK 2022, which I also
I
built
played it, I
a.
remember.
Yeah. I also built this like card-based battle system. Like, oh, sorry, I had the battle system built, but the whole card-based like attack selection interface, I built that just during the scope of the jam. So this took me quite a while. Like, how long did it take for you to build out? Like, because you mentioned you didn't even have an idea. You hadn't settled on something for 25 hours in. How much time did you actually spend on this? Like, did you sleep?
No,
Not much, honestly.
yeah.
Maybe like 4 hours.
No, I slept like probably full 8 hours after the first day, but we didn't implement anything yet.
Yeah,
But after the second day, we slept maybe
maybe
4.
maybe 4, maybe 3.
It's hard to say how long it took to implement all the carding and stuff because the game was ready by the end of the second day only. But not that much, not that long, because I think the cards themselves, like cards, grabbing them, drawing them, discarding them, took me probably 80% of the first day.
See, that's why I say that he does magic. Because how does that so fast?
To be honest, Godot UI system is very nice to work with. It's kind of some weird at first to use, but when it clicks, it's very very fast to work with. Yeah.
No, it's good. I'm glad that you can like build stuff out really quickly when you know what you're doing. Um, so do you want to talk a little bit about how you went from the paper prototype to the like digital version of the game? Were you just kind of like rapidly iterating on the paper version, and then once you were done with that, you just made a digital version, or was there still more refinement that happened as you were translating it?
Oh, definitely there was refinement. I can't help myself but keep running the game all the time and playing it and playing it and playing it and tweaking the variables all the time. That's how I do it during game jam. And I know some people don't play their game until the very end, and I do it all the time, iteratively through the process. Like as long as I have something working, I run it probably 100 times before I move on to something else. So yeah, the game balancing was completely on me. I changed a lot of numbers until I felt satisfied how it runs.
Also, in the paper prototype, we had rather, let's say, boring creatures like a guard, a soldier,
Yeah.
a cannon. But then we came up with this idea of a druid in the forest exactly, and I made those forest spirits, let's say. Every one of those creatures is kind of a spirit. So that worked out better thematically, I think.
Oh yeah, and usually we have an overscoped idea. We always start.
Oh
with
yeah,
something
always.
around it.
Yeah.
So we have to cut always a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
So one
Because
thing
when we brainstorm, we have a markdown file and we write down everything. Even during game jams, we do documentation. Like it's like a mini game design document, I'd say. So we just write down everything we come up with, and then just select and prioritize among all those things that we want to do during game jam, and just go through the priority list, see how far we can get.
Yeah, I just one thing I wanted to ask about the gameplay itself. Is there a way, like when you have your 4 characters, you can't like scrap one of them, right? You can't like choose to replace a summon.
No, you can't. We were.
It's a popular
pondering.
request, I
Yeah,
think.
we were pondering that. It got left on the cutting room floor, and
Oh yeah, I wanted to have a card that would allow to sacrifice a creature to cast
make room for
let's
another,
say, a
yeah.
more powerful spell, some
Mhm.
kind of a sacrifice effect, but we didn't get to it.
Yeah, it didn't get implemented.
Yeah, I mean it's just something that like you're not guaranteed to run into that as an issue. Like at a certain point, you just sort of, if your summons are sticking around, that's probably a good thing. But I did notice that like here, for example, let's get the water spirit out. I had the unicorn that was always attacking cells 1 and 2, and then I just had to sort of wait for my rock golems to be able to attack whatever was after that.
Yeah, you can get on the pickle with monsters because they also can get debuffed.
They can get debuffed and have a 0 strength and just stand there.
Oh yeah.
They can turn into furniture as well.
Yeah.
So the
But on the other hand, you have the repositioning.
I'd say it is
Yes.
a game design flaw. There probably should be some kind of replacement mechanic, either through a card or maybe through
Just allowing to replace. Maybe.
The one thing I was going to say is that I do appreciate how you have the ability to like scrap the cards for one of 2 purposes. So you can either draw cards or gain the mana. Effectively, drawing cards something that you want to burn cheap cards on, and gaining mana something you want to burn expensive cards on. So I'd like that there's a sort of avenue to use both low and high cost cards for different reasons.
Yeah, we were quite happy with that idea.
It also helps if you have a handful of costly cards, then you get a little bit more mana, so you're actually able to cast more sometimes. So I think it's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I really like the fawn enemy for being able to target symmetric cells because it really plays into the like repositioning mechanic.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah, I wish repositioning worked a little bit, was a little bit more involved. I think we could have figured out something a little bit more involving that would require repositioning to be the tool to master, I guess. Like, I feel like having cards like Unicorn and Water Spirit is just not enough for those buttons to be used consistently by players.
Yeah. So, what do you think was the most difficult problem that you encountered during the development process, and how did you solve that?
Well, working with cards certainly was difficult because it's a new problem, and every new problem requires some. During game jam, researching a new problem is adventurous, I'd say, especially when you only do it for 2 days, not 3
True.
days. But it worked out fine, I think. To be honest, we at some point on day 2, we even had a little bit of a panic attack. I felt like I just won't be able to do it. All these ambitious things we thought out and just didn't start properly, like on the first day. So it was. I mean, we made it.
Yeah, we made
that's
it,
already
that's
a
great.
surprise for me.
So the I saw that you made like a 1.1 version of the game. That's what I'm playing right now. Can you talk a little bit about what some of the fixes were that you made? Like, because there was a 1.01 version, and then you've now made like a 1.1. So can you talk a little bit about what some of the changes are? I saw them on the jam page here, but maybe you can talk a little bit about like what the motivation behind
Yeah.
these changes are.
We have implemented 2 new spells, or 3, I think. One was haste,
Yeah.
one that works as a reverse stun.
Mhm.
Another one with nature, which is a buff and a haste together. Maybe there is another one. And we added also a separate sprite for a diagram.
We I also differentiated cards a bit more. We got some comment that basically stating that they could use more differentiation.
Card designs, yes.
Card designs, yeah.
Slightly yellow.
Originally, they were both the same color and all.
Similar. They had the same color.
Yeah.
Summons and sorcery. So we added also the sorcery and summon text on the bottom of the card to clearly show which card type it is.
Every spell got its own image, which was not like that in the jam version.
And main menu got some uplifting.
Yeah, main menu got some uplift.
Overall, not
much really changed. Just
most of the game is there the same, except for, as I said, the visual new sprite for the dire bear. Because dire bear looked exactly like a bear.
It's just like a normal bear.
And UI, its most visible things. And I fixed other bugs with coroutines. When we released version 1.0, it was notorious for crashing. So
especially apparently on Linux.
Had 1.01 the first day to fix those issues because it was. Yeah. Since for the sake of speed, I used coroutines to implement card battling and things like that, and they're hard to debug. So if you have a bug in coroutine, it can lead to a game gets stuck, for example, in the middle of animation, and nothing going on further. So
yeah, I've seen like anytime it's, again, working on my own card battle game, I have absolutely run into these exact same problems where some state locks up. Like, I'm using an old version of GameMaker. Coroutines didn't even exist, but what I'm doing instead is there is a concept of which instance is in control, and it will run through a state machine, executing its different like animation states, and then it is expected to pass control back to whoever handed it control in the first place. And that means if one of those animation states bugs out, then it never hands back control. So the battle just freezes.
Well, it's very similar in this case when a coroutine doesn't return, or returns too late after certain other things should have been happening, should already be finished. It may just simply get stuck and not proceed. Because I use the technique with multiple coroutines. Like one coroutine is like a master coroutine that calls other coroutines and waits for them, and those coroutines can call other even coroutines, and so on and so forth. It's quite hard to debug such code. Like for a production game, I would probably avoid doing this. Yeah,
I mean, it's
very fast. It's very fast to write.
Absolutely.
That's the benefit.
Because I think that one of the main reasons that you would want something like this in the first place is because you literally do want, like, if everything happened immediately, like if there wasn't waiting for animations to play out, it would be very simple because you just run everything like in one frame of code. But you don't want that. You want the game to actually show the effect of an attack. You want the numbers to pop up. You want the damage calculation for the player to like actually be able to parse what's happening. So you need to wait, but unfortunately when you have these like asynchronous wait times where you end up with creating like race conditions, essentially, where something can, as you said, it finishes faster than you expect or finishes out of order, that's when you start running into these problems. So
yeah, the problems usually that were happening with these coroutines is like you're trying to damage a unit that is already dead, and such issues are very common here. But yeah, I mean, I think state machines are way easier to control because at least you can visualize where you are at. You can, if you have fancy state machine, you can, I don't know, draw even a chart to show which state you're in, what is happening, what kind of event is happening, and why the transition is happening, and so on. With coroutines, you are at the mercy of a debugger, so you literally need to set some breakpoints here and there, and then figure out what is going on. But it's even worse. Those coroutines can be run in parallel. So how do you wrap your head around that? That's tough.
yeah, I think the in my case it's not even just a state machine, but it's a switch. Like I'm just running these things as states of a switch statement. So it's very simple to see like, okay, well, it got this far. And then I just need to be careful if I have sometimes I will have flow-through cases because it just makes sense to do that rather than repeating the code. And then sometimes I have one state that jumps past, like is meant to skip a state. Like if the player goes to draw a card and there are no cards left in the deck, then it skips to the end state. So there are some times where I like jump states, and I just need to like look carefully and make sure that things are happening in the order that I expect.
That's the thing. Like state machine, even in the simplest form, like enum-based state machine, where you just use switch statements, you can still know where at which point you are at. Yes, you can ask the code like, hey, which state I am in. And with coroutines, you can't. You don't know where you are. It's you either have to manually keep maintaining like some kind of state variable where you know at which point you are, so you could, I don't know, debug it properly. But it's a bit harder. So if some coroutine misbehaves, you are in for a world of hurt if that coroutine is within another coroutine and within another coroutine and so on. Could be tough.
Oh yeah, it's as you said. I think in a production environment, like it's fine if the coroutines are executing something that is purely visual and they handle their own cleanup. Like if it's a sequence of animations that play out in an attack, it's probably fine for that to happen in a coroutine as long as the logic for dealing the damage is handled separately. But if you are literally using, well, I don't know, are you using the coroutines to actually do the countdown between when the attack starts and then when the attack concludes?
Oh yeah, the whole thing is run by one coroutine at the root of it. So the whole combat structure from round beginning, round ending, the next round starting, and so on, from enemy deciding. Like for example, enemy decides what it wants to do in its own coroutine.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, it's a mess. Well, it works. So I have a feeling that some games probably do it this way. Maybe.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to find, like, on the other hand, that is exactly like why games break, is because of these kind of, like, it works, right? It's like, well, it does until you reach that one edge case in which it doesn't, and then, oh man, everything starts to unravel and you get the, like, soft locked because something went in the wrong order.
Well, I managed to fix practically every bug that I found, so it kind of works now, I see. Because I remember it was hanging up on
at our original version, especially the web could hang.
Oh, I think it's
quite
mostly desktop for some reason. I have no idea why. Maybe
Desktop wasn't hanging.
one of those
web was
hanging up
on me.
even more often. For some reason, I don't know, maybe coroutines work a little bit different in those.
Don't look at me, I draw things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that everything holds together quite nicely, and you know the I do have to ask about, like, speaking of the drawings, where did the inspiration come from for characters to have these little, like, squiggly slug bodies?
Because I first of all wanted them to have the same base, so it will be easier. And these squiggly bodies are sort of like a forest ghosty kind of body. You see, like sort of floaty, no limbs, so easy.
And the idea was that you wanted to make them ghosts, right?
Yes.
So that's why.
Yes, but making them semi-transparent and floaty and stuff would be even more complicated. So they ended up this sort of somewhere between a ghost and a slug.
Yeah, I literally, as I was asking it, I was like, oh, I bet it's because they're ghosts, because they're summons. Like, that does make sense.
Yeah. And that was the general idea, yes.
Yeah. So is the artwork all exported just as, like, one frame? Because I imagine, like, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, every character is just one PNG, exported as one PNG file. That's it.
And the good old squish and stretch.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I'm a big fan of that myself, definitely. So I do think, in terms of feedback, one thing, and I'm sure you probably got this comment from other people as well, but when you put your cursor over a character, it would be really neat to see what that character is going to attack. Like putting my cursor over the unicorn, I know that this guy is going to attack my first 2 cells. So I can intuit that by reading this, but seeing it represented visually would be really neat.
Actually, nobody suggested that.
Yeah, actually, nobody suggested that.
What?
That kind of visualization.
I know, right?
Huh?
Now that I think of it, that sounds like a sound idea.
Yeah, it does sound obvious, right?
I gotta say, I'm a little surprised that no one suggested it until now. But yeah, I think that, I mean, it really depends. So you made this 1.1 version of the game, but do you have any intent to continue working on it?
Well, no, there's no such intention.
I don't think that at this moment we would continue working on this game. You like rolling more, I think, the previous one. Thematically.
Mhm.
Well, we are not working on that one either. Because we're still
Yes, we are still working on something else.
still working on our other game that is slowly in production
Yeah.
right now.
Nice.
It's a underwater exploration game,
Yeah.
kind of a Metroidvania, I think.
Kind of Metroidvania, kind of adventure, kind.
Mhm.
So do you? Well, I should say, whenever you feel ready to, you should feel welcome to share that on the stream. Of course, I'd be happy to try it out and give feedback on it. But is there anything that you want to like talk about, even if it's not ready to show, like just design-wise? Do you want to talk through like some of the? You mentioned like Metroidvania conceptually underwater, but like what's the sort of like core gameplay idea that you're trying to express here with this game?
That's a good question.
Well, we make about it as exploration and wonder.
Yeah, I think exploration is like one of the
Yes, that is
But-
definitely a core pillar here. Exploration and discovery.
I think underwater world like offers just such a plethora of opportunities for surprise
Mm-hmm.
and interesting locations because we are not making like a realistic underwater
No, it's
setting.
cartoonish.
It's totally
Cartoonish,
cartoonish,
yeah.
bit fantasy, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it offers a ton of opportunity for
There's a bit of
interesting encounters. To
sort of Mayan, Aztecian aesthetics inspirations there, so I think it will be interesting visually
Mhm.
to explore.
The
Yeah.
gameplay itself, like you said, it's underwater. Are you in like a submarine, or are you like a character that can swim, or?
Or you're a character that can swim.
Yes.
Yes.
You're a character that can swim, and yeah, that's. We were thinking about some survival mechanic, but it just doesn't work out very well.
You know, at the beginning we had
We are in the
survival
process of teaching
mechanic,
it, like
but
oxygen, and things like that. But I think it's kind of Metroidvanias are a very,
exploration,
very
really.
frustrating genre. I don't think people need oxygen as
But
well
it's
to
also
manage.
character exploration. You're not incentivized to go and explore and see every nook and cranny if you're running out of oxygen all the time. You're incentivized to go as fast as you
Yeah.
can and find the next oxygen.
Mhm.
And also, we don't want the game to be too hard, maybe even hard. I don't know. I think it turns out to be like quite an interesting chill game, like a kind of Metroidvania that doesn't require a few insane skills or repetitive gameplay. Too much.
That's interesting. Yeah, I do wonder like how because I guess what people enjoy about the exploration in Metroid, if I'm thinking back to Super Metroid, right, that this is like the prototypical Metroidvania. People love the exploration because there's always something useful. Like you're always going to find a new health tank or a new missile upgrade, and then those increase your survivability and increase your damage output.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, can you make a game that is just about exploration, or do you need to reward the player for exploration? Because there's the intrinsic or the extrinsic motivation for exploring, right?
Yeah.
We are in the process of
I
actually
think that
finalizing the design.
you need to reward exploration, but these rewards
Can come from
don't
different
necessarily
places.
need to be some
Mechanical.
specific thing, some mechanical rewards.
Mhm.
They can also be they can be varied. There need to be specific mechanical things. Let's be honest, a player wants to find a new shiny thing to use
Right.
or a new skill, and if he never does, then well, what's the point, right? I would not want to play that game.
We have this idea with a story-based exploration.
But also, exactly, we have also this idea
of stories
where
for
you
exploration.
find also bits of stories, backstory of the world, the setting through exploration, or you find just interesting set pieces. Like one of my favorite moments in Cyberpunk when I was going around was finding this in the middle of nowhere. It was connected to nothing. It was just a crazy pile of stuff, and I was looking at it and thinking, this is awesome. So I like also an idea of putting such interesting set pieces to find, like they're not really connected to much, just interesting thing to see. Let's say 5 mice underwater near a table drinking tea. I mean, great.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Subnautica jumps to mind. Is that at all an inspiration?
Oh yeah, definitely. In a way.
Yes and no, because it's visually and aesthetically games are completely different. We are working on a 2D game. for
Yes,
characters.
of course.
Our biggest inspiration is the very, but I guess by now it's very old, maybe not. I don't know. A game called Aquaria. You might know it. Being quite at time. It's one of the first so-called indie games, I think, because it was released I think 2004, maybe 2008.
I don't
It's been
know.
a long time ago. And it also was Metroidvania.
Yeah, it was.
Based underwater. So let's say that's the main. But I have no idea. We have inspirations from so many different things that, and mechanically the game turns out to be quite, I'd say, interesting because
Yeah.
it borrows from so many different interesting genres and games in one big soup that somehow works.
Indeed.
Interesting. All right. Well, I am looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to finding out more. And if folks who are watching would like to get more information about the game, where can they go? How can they find you on the interwebs?
Mainly on Mastodon.
On Mastodon, yeah. All our links, relevant links on our each page.
Yeah, our game is currently untitled, and it's based on one of our Ludum Dare games that we were making before. Yeah, and we write about its development on our Mastodon.
Yes.
And also
Oh,
here
here
you
we
can
go.
see.
Yeah, here are all our Mastodons and stuff.
And there's a bunch of accounts there. Also, we have a Discord too.
Yeah, well, any links you'd like to share, feel free to drop them in chat. I don't know if you want to put them all in chat, but I'll just start copying out a couple here. I don't even recognize the butterfly one. Oh,
Blue Sky.
Oh,
It's one of the Twitter alternatives that popped up after Elon started to do crazy things.
Yeah.
I think it's
Awesome.
It's a startup made by former Twitter developers.
Maybe, yeah.
Sure. That's not a proper link for Mastodon. You sent already, okay? So I don't need to.
Right, yeah, that's completely enough. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the call. It's been a lot of fun discussing the game. And yeah, anytime that you would like to share the untitled water Metroidvania exploration game, I'd be happy to take a look.
Great.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was very fun.
All right. Well, thank you once again, and have a good evening. Goodbye for now.
So, bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.